Hello and welcome to the Amplifying Scientific Innovation video podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Sophia Ononye-Onyia, founder and CEO of the Sophia Consulting Firm, a WeBank certified life science marketing and communications consultancy that was established in New York City with the goal of amplifying scientific innovation. The goal of this podcast is to showcase the importance of science advocacy, health equity, and influential leadership through conversations with senior life science leaders who will share their unique perspectives on their leadership journey, corporate vision, and industry outlook. My guest today is Dr. Derrell Porter, founder and CEO of Cellevolve Bio, a development and commercialization company focused on cell therapies. Derrell is a physician and entrepreneur who is tailor-made to accelerate the development and commercialization of cell therapies through pioneering collaborations with global innovators, including Australian-based QIMR Begorfar and the biopharmaceutical manufacturing company National Resilience, otherwise known as Resilience, in addition to notable high net worth investors such as the amazing Jonathan Fasberg, Vice Chairman, Healthcare Investment Banking at Oppenheimer, and fellow health equity advocate. In addition to many things, Derrell is the first guest to be invited back to the podcast, and it's been my honor and pleasure to support him in his entrepreneurial journey at Cellevolve. As a Sophia Consulting Firm is an agency of record for Cellevolve. It's also been a great pleasure working with his founding team, including Dr. Siddhi Whittaker. Now, welcome to the show, Derrell.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Sophia. Thanks for having me back. I enjoyed the first one.
That's good. And one of the things I loved the first time is you shared this idea that you had about this company, and today the company is live. So obviously one of the things I would like to hear is what's going on. But before we do that, we always have to start with that scientific innovation definition. So the first time that you were here, you stated that innovation in the life science industry should include processes, approaches to business or business system problems as well. Can you tell me how you've been able to incorporate this business model innovation in your startup company, Cellevolve?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm reflecting back on our first conversation when you asked that, which is a spot on question. As you pointed out, we all know that our industry thinks innovation equals only scientific innovations. And, I think with the explosion of cell and gene therapy writ large, that represented really a once in a generation opportunity to expand the definition of innovation. And in our space, in our company, that really is about a business model innovation. And, classically, I would say the industry has applied traditional approaches to new discoveries. The classic examples are things like, small biotechs never go to Europe, or, small biotechs think about commercialization at the very last possible minute and invest, the smallest amount of capital that they can afford. And I think we're learning, unfortunately, for some of our fellow companies in cell and gene therapy, those approaches are just not working. And so one of the things that we're doing at Cellevolve is, we call it a business model innovation because we're going about conducting our business in a very different way. And probably the simplest way to put it is that we think about commercialization first and actually work backwards. So we think about what does it look like, or what does the product need to look like in order to be a successful, commercially approved therapeutic, and take that thinking all the way back to early development. Now, key phrase I stated here is early development, right? So we don't do research. And so when we partner with innovators, as we'll, I'm sure, get into in a minute, we typically partner with them at early clinical development. And that's when we bring this thinking to bear.
Wow. So that's truly exceptional. I think that obviously you recognize where we are. We're at a critical stage in the rapid revolution of cell therapies. But I think that in order to truly innovate, as you mentioned, we have to find ways to commercialize, right? Because that's ultimately how we make these therapies accessible to patients. So thank you for that definition, evolution, as well as, defining for us what that business model innovation means for you.
Absolutely.
So you're a physician entrepreneur and you have over 20 years of experience in the business of medicine, which I absolutely appreciate and admire. And one of the concepts that you're very passionate about is this whole concept of democratization of innovation. Can you tell us more about this?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a phrase and a concept that really applies to multiple industries across the modern economy at this point in time, but specifically as it applies to biotech or cell and gene therapy, it simply means that innovations are happening in a more distributed way at this particular time than any point in our history. You used to have a lot of novel inventions concentrated in a fairly small number of individual hands and institutions, whether those were academics or companies. And now you're seeing it everywhere. I mean, it's in smaller institutions, not only across North America, but also in different corners of the world. The obvious one is China being a notable example, but you can include South Korea, Japan, obviously all across Europe. And so, democratization, meaning that it's just more widely spread. And those inventions are happening everywhere. And, we'll chat about this in a moment, but for sure for us, that is part of the trend that we seek to enable. So because you have a lot of these just great inventions happening all across the world, not all of these inventors have either partners or capital or the capabilities to advance their potential product candidates to various stages of development. And that's where Cellevolve comes into play.
Extremely well said. It also ties back into what you were talking about, right? What led to Cellevolve in the first place? There's a lot of innovation. We have to make sure that we can commercialize this cell therapy. So thank you for bringing it back home for us once again. And then, now I'm absolutely curious. I think we would love to learn an update. So can you provide a top line overview of ongoing work at Cellevolve, inclusive of those partnerships that you alluded to earlier, and some of which I mentioned in my introduction, with our Australian-based QIMR Begorfa, and I believe I also mentioned the San-based Resilience. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, so we just announced that broad-based collaboration with Australia-based QIMR, as you just referred to. It also includes their fully captured CDMO called QGen. Or QGen Cell Therapeutics. And the beauty of this collaboration is it has a few parts to it. So, first and foremost, what I just mentioned is manufacturing. So we have clinical stage GMP manufacturing through QGen. Second is, we have one of the leading inventors, frankly, in cell therapy in Professor Rajiv Khanna. And so Rajiv, I've known for some time, and he's just a wonderful person, most importantly, but also one of the greatest minds in developing novel virus-specific T cells. And, last but not least, and very importantly, given his expertise in virus-specific T cells, our collaboration is focused on two specific VSTs. So JC and BK virus-specific T cells. And for those of you that know anything, those are in the family of polyoma viruses. So they're somewhat related, but two distinct viruses. And so that's the broad brushstrokes of the collaboration. And our initial focus is on a disease called progressive multifocal leukoencephalopathy, which is PML for short, which is a neurodegenerative disease that occurs in about 4,000 patients across US and Europe. And unfortunately, is disproportionately fatal and very, very debilitating. And so, we're excited about the possibility of developing a therapeutic for this area.
Yeah, what I love about everything that you've mentioned is how it ties back into Cellevolve's mission, which of course is to accelerate the revolution in cell therapy by translating innovation into commercially available treatments. So everything you do with these partnerships is really to improve, extend, and evolve really that commercialization process. So again, it always comes back to that, right?
Absolutely. And can I just I didn't comment on resilience because you mentioned resilience in your question. The resilience relationship is also something we're very, very excited about, and frankly is a critical enabling partnership for us. As we all know, manufacturing is a core capability, especially in cell and gene therapy. And unfortunately, one that has stumbled and handicapped a lot of companies going forward. And so what we wanted to do was to find a capable partner that we can join hands with in trying to commercialize and develop these therapeutics. And so we're very excited about our collaboration with Resilience. We also have a board observer and Itan Abraham, and we'll work with them on actually finding additional partners down the road. So it's a really profound and an embedded partnership with Resilience. So we're pretty excited about that.
Oh, that sounds very exciting. I would be excited, and I am excited because we're really, again, tying it back to the company's mission and doing the best that you can to really make an impact in the space. Now, I want to get back to a topic that, of course, we've discussed a few times now. What are some of the unique challenges that you believe that Black founders like yourself face? And are there any coping strategies that you can share with our audience?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the challenges are well chronicled, frankly, for any group that's underrepresented, and Black males and the executive suite, or as entrepreneurs or founders, is one of those areas. And so, the challenges are, again, classic. First off, you're looking for models and mentors, and those are few and far between. And so, you're trying to really search far and wide to find folks that can teach you, can show you the ropes, can really show you the path for how to be successful in this space. And, you typically don't find them, or they're very difficult to identify. That's one. Secondarily, from a partnership and an investor perspective, a lot of the things that get an investor across that final hurdle is about personal relationships. So, you have potentially a wonderful business idea, some interesting technology, but that's usually not enough. They want to feel a sense of connection with you. They want to trust you. They want to believe in what you're, trying to accomplish. And, at times that's difficult for people to see that in someone that doesn't look like them. And that can be male, female, obviously well chronicled in some of the challenges for women entrepreneurs, clearly the same for underrepresented people of color, like myself. And so, and I felt that all along my entire career, and definitely this entrepreneurial journey with Cellevolve has been no exception in running into some of those hurdles. But, I've been doing this for a long time. And so, I've found the path forward, and Cellevolve, again, is no exception. I found a path forward, and we're continuing to push.
Yeah, so keep pushing, right? That seems to be a theme that you've really vocalized during our conversation today. You mentioned mentorship. I think obviously that's a critical component to being successful in any capacity, especially as an entrepreneur. Are there any notable mentors that have helped to shape this entrepreneurial journey of yours?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll chat about what we're trying to do at Cellevolve because we think, and I believe it's so important. It has been critical to my success and navigation throughout my career. And so, we're trying to give back / pay it forward. And we'll talk about that in a second. But the three mentors I'll mention One is Muz Mansouri. Muz is a wonderful friend. I've known Muz for years. First met him at my days at Gilead when he was the head of corporate development there. And so Muz was one of the first people I spoke to about the concept of which became Cellevolve. And Muz is obviously one of our advisors and is intimately involved today. And so I consider him a friend. The second one is Fred Cohen. So Fred Cohen is famous. He's here in the Bay Area and used to be at TPG Biotech and then most recently Vita. And Fred started his own firm recently. And I'm blanking on the name of it right now, but Fred Cohen was also one of the earliest folks I spoke to about Cellevolve. And I met Fred when I first moved to San Francisco now almost 10 years ago. And Fred and I have kept in touch over the years, and he's guided me on a number of different areas, not only during my time at Gilead and Atara, but for sure at Cellevolve. And then last but not least is Ted Love, right? So Ted Love is, also famous. Ted Love is obviously a physician, an entrepreneur, a Black CEO of a publicly traded company, Global Blood Therapeutics. And, obviously he's well known from his Onyx days with him and Tony Coles. And Ted has been very helpful to me throughout this entrepreneur journey. And he's a very busy man, so I don't get as much time as I would like, but he's been very, very helpful and has guided me throughout my journey, period, but definitely during my time at Cellevolve.
That's amazing. Ted, just as an aside, was a guest on season 2 of the podcast, and it's really remarkable how great of a mentor he's been to so many people. So thank you for sharing that. I know, of course, you want to share about what Cellevolve is going to be doing internally. So
and one comment about Ted Love, a small world, but my family has roots in Alabama, and Ted also has roots in Alabama. It's a small world. How do you end up in San Francisco? Traditions and with roots in Alabama. So anyhow, that's kind of how the universe works. But in terms of our approach, so diversity and inclusion and really trying to enhance the pipeline for people of color and underrepresented groups in life sciences writ large, it's part of our culture and it's embedded in what we call our code at Cellevolve. And so, we're working to really define 2 key things. One is mentorship. And so we're actively identifying a couple of key partners where we can provide mentorship to up and coming scientifically interested and capable students, right? All the way from junior high through, advanced degrees, folks that might be getting their PhDs or in medical school. And so look for more on that, but that's something that's very, very important to us. And it's a way that we think we can have an impact in our own way in the building of Cellevolve. So that's number one. Number two, we also, we're pushing to ensure that our team, from the board of directors, our advisors, our executives, our team members, are representative of the world that we're a part of, right? And so that means you will see probably larger than usual number of people of color and underrepresented groups as part of the company. Also, you will see probably larger than usual representation of women that are participating and guiding the company. And so, that's part of how we're trying to give back and make an impact on the community writ large in the ways that, would have been helpful to me, 10 years ago. And so I want to try to make the path that much easier for the next wave of talent that's coming through our business.
That is absolutely remarkable. You lead by example, right? So you cannot say that you appreciate, admire, or support diversity and inclusion if your company is not representative of that. And also you took some of your experiences as well, sort of the lack of Black mentors in your life to make sure that you can help inspire the next generation of diverse people in STEM, not just Black people, Hispanic people, just minorities in STEM? How can you elevate that? So thank you for sharing that perspective. It's remarkable.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
You're welcome. So my second to last question for you is obviously bringing it back to Cellevolve again and your focus in the cell therapy space. What concerns do you have about any potential regulatory hurdles that you might have in the US, EU, Australia, even China, and other major markets?
It's interesting. I'm quite sympathetic to the regulatory agencies. I know at times our industry is critical and will complain or have some challenge with the regulators, but I am quite sympathetic for two reasons. First and foremost, I think our objectives are aligned, right? They are ultimately trying to get safe and effective therapeutics approved into patients, as are we. And so we have found our working relationship specifically with the FDA to be extraordinarily collaborative. They have been, quite responsive, obviously working through the typical channels of type B and type C interactions, but they have been very helpful, very thoughtful in their guidance to us and, asking a lot of the right questions. And so, we've found it to be a quite positive relationship to date. We don't have as much experience with regulators outside of the US to date, but that's coming. So we're in the process of engaging with EMA, MHRA, and others in the coming months. So that's been great. I think the challenge with the FDA and all of the regulators, frankly, in most developed countries is just the sheer volume of these products that are being developed. And, we all know cell therapy doesn't equal cell therapy, right? And so like cell therapy, depending on what you have, means a lot of different things. You can have an autologous, genetically modified CAR T, you can have an allogeneic, gamma delta T cells. And so like all those things are so different. So you can imagine from a regulatory perspective, when they're just a recipient of all this volume of data, questions and requests and CMC questions. And so again, I sympathize with them. It's a struggle, and hopefully the FDA and the agencies across the world will get more resources and can, start to gain more experience with reviewing and hopefully regulating and approving these therapies. So, I just say that my heart goes out to them, and I'm rooting for more resource, and they've been very, very collaborative with us. So we've had a great relationship with them thus far.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think relative to the last time that you were here, I think the agency, at least here in the US, has definitely changed. And there's more receptivity, more sort of virtual conversations. If I remember correctly, you were recently invited to participate in an FDA panel for PML, correct?
That's correct. Yeah. So the FDA, and this was chaired by Dr. Irina Cortese at NIH, and she, as well as the FDA, invited me and Cellevolve to participate in a panel in designing clinical trials for PML. And so it was a wonderful opportunity for us to have some great dialogue and to hear some of the challenges and concerns about developing clinical trials for PML. And so I think that's evidence of their collaborative nature and frankly, willingness to listen and to try to understand. And so I think that was a very, very important and illustrative example of the collaboration that we've had with the agency. And we expect to continue to do more, right? I mean, given our strategy, we're trying to build one of the largest cell therapy pipelines in the industry. And so we expect to have numerous interactions with the FDA, as well as the other agencies, EMA, MHRA, et cetera. And so 2022 will be a very busy year for us in terms of engaging with the regulators. And so hopefully we continue with the same spirit.
Yes, in 23, 24, 25. 26.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So in closing, do you have any other comments or thoughts that you'd like to share with our audience?
The last thing I'll say, I mean, this has been a phenomenal foundational year for Cellevolve. I know the year's not quite over yet, but as we look towards the end of 21 and going into 22, we've closed our seed round. We have an outstanding founding executive team. We announced our lead partnership with QIMR and the PML program, which will be in clinical studies next year. We obviously talked about the resilience collaboration and that partnership and the importance of that. So it's been a great year. Really, the second half, right? The first half was kind of quiet. The second half, we came out of the gates moving quite aggressively. And 2022 will be no exception. So we are going to continue. We will announce more partnerships and collaborations, as well as building our team going forward. And so, I just look forward to continuing the dialogue, and maybe you could have us back for a third time on your podcast. And, happy to talk about the progress, some of the opportunities and the challenges that we see in the field of cell therapy. I just want to say thank you for the time. It's been great working with you, great chatting with you on this podcast today. And like I said, let's make another first and have us back as a third time participant.
Hey, why stop now? I am extremely proud of you, Dr. Porter. It's been a pleasure supporting you personally and professionally in the past 5 years. And I cannot wait to see the evolution of Cellevolve, and congrats to you, the founding team, investors, and your partners, all the people that stand behind you to help you to be a part of this pivotal stage in the cell therapy transformation and revolution. So thank you for gracing us with your presence and sharing more about the amazing Dr. Derrell Porter. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sophia. Thanks for having me.